Minnetonka. Big water. That's the Dakota name for Lake Minnetonka. And it really tells you something right away, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It signals this isn't just, any lake. It's got this deep history, real
That
significance.
scale is just, well, it's huge.
Oh, definitely. Try to picture this. 125 miles of shoreline. That wraps around 14,043 acres. It's actually the ninth largest lake in Minnesota.
Wow.
But what gets really interesting is the complexity. It's not just one big bowl. There are 42 different bays and named bodies of water.
42.
Yeah,
That's incredible. It must feel like exploring lots of different lakes connected together.
exactly. Each one sort of has its own feel. And the depths, they're all over the place, too.
Yeah.
You got Crystal Bay plunging down 113 feet, really deep zones there.
But not all of it is like that.
Not at all. Actually, a pretty big chunk, 39%, is less than 15 feet deep.
So that creates a really diverse environment, I guess. Shallow areas, deep areas.
Precisely. Think about the habitats, different fish, different plants, even different ways people use those areas.
Yeah.
And it's all right there on the edge of Minneapolis.
Right, this massive natural space right next to a major city.
It's quite a connection.
So today, we really want to get a feel for what makes Lake Minnetonka tick. Its key features, the history behind it, how it's looked after, the rules.
And why it means so much to the community. It's a big part of the local identity.
Okay, so let's start with that history. It sounds like it goes way back.
It really does. That Dakota name, Minnetonka, isn't just a label. It points to these sacred indigenous areas featured in Dakota legends.
So it was culturally vital long before settlers arrived.
Absolutely. It was woven into the spiritual life, the daily life of the Dakota people. You have to imagine that connection over centuries.
That's amazing to think about. And then later history kind of layers on top, like with towns such as Excelsior.
Exactly. Excelsior pops up right on the shores. So you get these intersections of different times, different cultures, all focused around the lake.
And people still celebrate that connection now, right? You mentioned some events.
Yeah, things like Excelsior Art on the Lake or Excelsior Apple Day. They feel like more than just fun local events. They're ways the community sort of touches base with its heritage, the identity that grew up around the lake.
And if you wanted to, say, learn more about that past, are there places to go?
Oh, definitely. You've got the Minnetonka Historical Society and also the Excelsior Lake Minnetonka Historical Society. They're
Yeah.
fantastic resources. They have exhibits, old photos, artifacts, personal stories. They really help bring that history to life.
So it's clear the history is incredibly rich, from ancient legends to preserved local stories. But it's definitely not just a museum piece today, is it?
Not at all. It's
Oh.
buzzing with activity. It's a huge center for recreation and community life.
What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, everything from just cruising around, enjoying the views, exploring the little towns along the shore,
Sure.
to more active stuff like water skiing, fishing, paddleboarding, and just connecting with nature, really.
And I saw mention of the Lake Minnetonka Regional Park. That sounds like a good spot for land-based exploring.
It's excellent. Great hiking trails. They go through different kinds of terrain, so you can pick a walk that suits you. Plus, you get these fantastic views over the water and chances to see wildlife.
Nice. And it sounds like it works for families, too. Shorter trails, playgrounds.
Yeah, definitely family-friendly options.
Mhm.
Lots of local parks have picnic spots, play areas. Makes it accessible for everyone.
What about the social side? Places to hang out.
Oh, yeah. There's a definite social scene. Bars like The Narrows, known for great views, or maybe Backchannel Brewing if you like craft beer. Places to relax and soak up the lake atmosphere.
And evening cruises. That sounds appealing. Seeing it at sunset.
It offers a totally different perspective, right?
Yeah.
The light changes, things quiet down. It's a beautiful way to experience the lake.
It really sounds like a place with a lot going on, which brings up the question, how do you manage all of this? Protect it?
That's where the Lake Minnetonka Conservation District, the LMCD, comes in. They're the main organization looking after the lake.
Okay, the LMCD, what's their focus?
Their mission for over 50 years now has been to preserve and enhance the Lake Minnetonka experience. So it's a balance.
A balance between using the lake and protecting it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Keeping it healthy ecologically, but also making sure it remains this amazing resource for people.
And it's a big area to cover. Does it involve different towns and counties?
It has to. The LMCD is actually a regional government agency. It includes representatives from, get this, 14 cities and 2 counties.
Wow, that takes coordination.
Definitely. Since 1967, they've been the ones setting rules, finding funding, doing educational programs, all that stuff needed to manage a shared resource like this.
One big challenge for lakes everywhere is invasive species. How do they tackle that?
They use a few strategies, things like aquatic vegetation harvesting, basically, using special boats to cut back excessive non-native plants, and sometimes carefully coordinated herbicide treatments in specific areas. But it's not just the LMCD.
Oh.
People who own property right on the lake, the riparian owners, they can actually manage certain invasive plants near their docks, too. They have to follow guidelines, of course, and the DNR, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, provides lists of licensed companies who can do that work.
So it's kind of a shared effort, and that phrase, stop aquatic hitchhikers, that's about everyone doing their part, right?
Precisely. It's all about preventing the spread in the first place. Cleaning boats, draining water, basic but crucial steps.
Makes sense. Okay, so conservation is key. What about safety on the water? There must be rules for that.
Absolutely. There's a Lake Minnetonka summer rules brochure. Looks like the 2023 version is the latest we have info on, and it lays out the key regulations.
Any big changes recently?
Yes, one significant change. The slow, no-wake speed limit, 5 miles per hour, now applies within 300 feet of the shore.
300 feet. What was it before?
It used to be 150 feet, so they've extended that buffer zone, likely to reduce wake impact closer to shorelines, docks, and swimmers.
Okay, but the rule about staying 150 feet away from docks, anchored boats, swimmers, dive flags, that hasn't changed.
Correct. That 150-foot distance rule for giving space is still in effect. It's about respecting other users.
And there are specific quiet water areas, QWAs.
Yes. These are zones, like certain bays or channels, where there's a strict 5 mile per hour or minimum wake rule.
Yeah.
Helps protect sensitive habitats or allows for quieter activities. There's a map showing where these are.
And minimum wake just means going as slow as possible while still being able to steer, basically creating the least disturbance.
That's the idea. Minimal wave action. The rules brochure also lists the top summer violations, which is pretty useful for boaters.
Like, what do people get flagged for most often?
Things you'd expect, maybe. Not having enough life jackets or a throwable PFD. Boating under the influence, or BUI, the limit is 0.08 BAC, just like driving a car.
Standard safety stuff.
Right. Also, not having a required fire extinguisher. Issues with boat registration. And that includes non-motorized boats over 10 feet, like sailboats or kayaks.
Oh, interesting. Even non-motorized over 10 feet need registration.
Apparently so, according to these rules.
Oh.
Also, riding on the gunnels, the top edges of the boat sides, that's a no-no.
For obvious safety reasons, yeah.
And specific rules for personal watercraft, PWCs, like jet skis. They have restricted operating hours, 9:30 a.m. until 1 hour before sunset.
Okay.
And they can't just zoom around in one spot indefinitely. There's a 30-minute limit for operating in a single area, probably for noise and congestion reasons.
That makes sense. What about towing people, skiers, tubers?
Lots of rules there, too.
Yeah.
You need an observer on the boat who's at least 12 years old watching the person being towed.
Right.
There are restricted hours, usually from half an hour after sunset to sunrise. And towing isn't allowed in marked channels at all. Max of 3 people towed at once.
And life jackets for those being towed.
Mandatory. Either wearing a U.S. Coast Guard approved one or having one readily accessible on the boat specifically for them. There's also something called Sophia's Law.
What's that?
It requires carbon monoxide alarms on certain motorboats, specifically those with enclosed accommodation areas. CO is odorless, colorless, and dangerous.
Good rule. And you mentioned electric shock drowning, ESD. That sounds serious.
It is. It's the risk of electrical current leaking into the water from faulty wiring on a boat or dock. It can paralyze swimmers. The advice is stark. Never swim around powered boats or docks unless you're absolutely certain the electrical systems are safe.
Wow. Okay, really important warning. Are there rules specifically for younger boaters?
Yes, curfews for different age groups and requirements for operators' permits. You need to take a course offered by LMCD or the MNDNR.
So education is part of it.
Definitely. And there are age restrictions tied to the horsepower of the boat engine you're allowed to operate. It ensures younger operators have the right training for the boat they're handling.
It sounds like a comprehensive set of rules aimed at safety and responsibility.
It really covers a lot. And it all comes back to protecting the lake and the people using it, which circles back to those stop aquatic hitchhikers practices again.
Right. Inspect, clean, pull weeds, drain water, dry everything.
And dispose of unwanted bait on land, not in the water. It's that shared responsibility thing again.
Definitely. So as we kind of wrap this up, let's maybe revisit what really defines Lake Minnetonka. What are the core takeaways?
Well, first, that sheer scale and its connection to the community, those 14 cities, 2 counties, all bordering it, it's not remote, it's central.
And the name itself, Minnetonka, big water, always remembering that deep Dakota heritage.
Absolutely. And its place in the wider ecosystem, being part of the Minnehaha Creek watershed, it connects to a whole system.
Plus just the sheer abundance of nature, as the sources put it, the parks, islands, trails. It's more than just water.
For sure. And you can't forget the local color, like the legend of Lou, the giant sturgeon.
No, right. Every old lake needs a good legend.
It adds character. And that cool historical fact about the first electric-lit inland steamboat in the U.S. being right there in 1881, it shows a pioneering spirit, too.
It really is a place with many, many layers. And if people want the latest info, rules, what's happening?
The LMCD website and their social media are the go-to places. Always check there for the most current regulations and news.
Great tip. So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about this constant balancing act?
Yeah, balancing all the fun and recreation with the absolute need to conserve this place. Plus, honoring that long history.
How does that balance keep shaping the Lake Minnetonka experience for everyone? And, what's our individual part in keeping that balance right for the future?
That's the question, isn't it? It's a shared treasure and needs shared responsibility.